you want to be comfortable and you want to have friends and you want to be like early days, being like short, being 5 feet tall.
Picture this. You're one of the most famous actors in the world. You've made millions of people laugh. You've won awards and lived in mansions. But every single day, you wake up in pain. Every step you take hurts. And the thing that made you different, the thing that made you famous, is also the thing that causes you agony every moment of your life. This is the reality for Danny DeVito. At 80 years old, he's still making us laugh on our TV screens. But behind those jokes and that famous smile is a story so heartbreaking, it will change how you see him forever. Danny's story starts in a place where nobody wanted him. Not even his own mother. When he was born in Neptune, New Jersey in 1944, his mom Julia was already 40 years old. She had raised several kids already, and she was tired. Years later, she said something that would haunt Danny forever. She admitted, right out loud, that she never wanted him. Can you imagine hearing that from your own mother? The person who's supposed to love you most in the world, telling you that you were never wanted? But that was just the beginning of Danny's pain. At home, things were scary and unpredictable. His dad, Daniel, was a nice guy during the day. He owned a candy shop and everyone in town liked him. But when the sun went down and he started drinking, he became a completely different person. He got angry. He got loud. Sometimes he got violent. Little Danny learned to watch for warning signs. He would listen for the sound of bottles clinking. He would notice when his dad's footsteps changed. Sometimes Danny had to hide in closets. Other times, he ran to the neighbor's house. Between 1950 and 1955, the police came to their house 17 times. 17 times before Danny was even a teenager. That's more than 3 times every year. Living in that kind of fear changes a kid. It leaves marks that never really go away. Danny carried those scars with him his whole life. But instead of letting them destroy him, he used them as fuel. He decided he was going to prove that he was worth something, even if his own mother said she didn't want him. But Danny had another problem, one that would follow him his entire life and cause him pain every single day. He had something called Fairbanks disease. It's a rare condition that affects how your bones grow. That's why Danny only grew to be 4 feet and 10 inches tall. But here's what most people don't know. It wasn't just about being short. This disease caused him constant, terrible pain. His hips hurt. His knees ached. His back was always in agony. Doctors say his pain level was usually between 6 and 8 out of 10. That means on a good day, he felt like someone who just got hurt in a car accident. On bad days, it was even worse. But Danny never complained. He never took the easy way out with pain medicine, even when doctors offered it to him. When Danny was 14, he knew he had to escape. His neighborhood was falling apart. Drugs were everywhere. 2 of his childhood friends died before they even turned 16. So Danny made a plan. He studied hard and saved up $237 from little jobs around town. He convinced his priest to talk to his parents about letting him go to a better school. He was smart about when he asked. He waited until his dad was sober and feeling guilty about his drinking. His mom, probably feeling bad about never wanting him, finally said yes. That decision saved Danny's life. Out of 12 friends from his old neighborhood, only 3 made it past 25 without going to prison or getting hooked on drugs. Before Danny became famous, he had a job that might surprise you. He was a hairdresser. He trained for it, put in 1,500 hours of work, and graduated second in his class from beauty school. He worked at his sister's salon called Curl Up and Dye. He got so good at it that people would book appointments months in advance. He even won awards for a hairstyle he created called the Neptune twist. One day, while he was doing a woman's hair, her husband came in. The husband was a theater producer, and he told Danny he should try acting. That's how Danny's whole career started, because of a random conversation in a hair salon. When Danny first tried to get into acting school, he wasn't even planning to be an actor. He just wanted to learn makeup. But when they asked him to perform a scene, something magical happened. Even though he had never acted before, they could see he had talent. They offered him a spot in acting class instead of makeup class. Danny's early years in New York were incredibly hard. He shared a tiny apartment with his roommate Michael Douglas. Yes, the same Michael Douglas who became a huge movie star. Their apartment was so small and cheap that it was full of cockroaches. They barely had any heat, and they could hardly afford the $75 rent. They ate canned beans and stale bread just to survive. Michael Douglas kept it secret that his dad was the famous actor Kirk Douglas. Meanwhile, Danny kept getting rejected at audition after audition. But their friendship stayed strong, and years later, Michael would help Danny get the role that changed his life. Between 1967 and 1970, Danny went to 248 auditions. Out of all those tries, he only got 3 small jobs that paid him less than $800 total. To survive, he took the strangest jobs you can imagine. He parked cars. He stood perfectly still like a mannequin in clothing stores. He even cleaned cages at the Los Angeles Zoo for just $1.85 an hour. Sometimes he would read lines to chimpanzees just to practice his acting. For a while, Danny was so poor he had to live in his old Volkswagen Beetle car. He would shower at the YMCA and eat at soup kitchens. He kept this story secret for decades because he was ashamed. Hollywood wanted to change Danny. Producers and agents told him he needed surgery. Some suggested breaking his legs and making them longer. Others wanted him to change his face completely. One movie studio even offered him nearly $1 million in today's money if he would get the surgery. Danny said no. In fact, he took the contract they offered him and burned it in a bonfire on the beach. He refused to become someone else just to be famous. He told one casting director something that stuck with him forever. "I'd rather be a first-rate version of myself than a second-rate version of someone else." His first acting jobs paid almost nothing. His first off-Broadway show paid him just $25 a week. He had to work the night shift at a printing press just to afford rent. During this time, Danny was dealing with deep depression. He almost quit acting completely. His first movie paid him only a little over $200, and he got pneumonia while filming in freezing water. When Danny's father got sick in 1972, Danny couldn't afford to go home very often. When his father died, it crushed him. He was so desperate that he applied for a job at the post office and seriously thought about giving up on acting forever. But on the same day he got the letter offering him the postal job, his phone rang. It was about an audition for a movie called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That phone call changed everything. The crazy part is that his old roommate Michael Douglas was the producer of the movie. Even crazier, Danny had already played the same character years earlier in a staged version of the story. So when the movie people weren't sure about him, he was already completely prepared for the role. The movie was filmed inside a real mental hospital, and they even used real patients as extras in some scenes. The setting was intense and scary, but it helped Danny give an amazing performance. He was only on screen for 5 minutes and 52 seconds, but he made a huge impact. The movie won 5 major Academy Awards, and finally, Danny was noticed by Hollywood. Then in 1978, Danny made a decision that everyone thought was crazy. He gave up 3 movie roles to audition for a TV show called Taxi. His own agent told him not to do it. Everyone in Hollywood said that going from movies to television would ruin his career. But Danny trusted his gut. When he read the script, he knew he had to play the character Louis De Palma. During his audition, he didn't just read the lines. He performed a full 7-minute speech that left everyone amazed. The TV network was nervous about casting someone who was only 4 feet 10 inches tall. But the show's creator threatened to quit if they didn't hire Danny. That's how much he believed in him. Danny didn't even ask for more money. He signed the contract right away, even though it paid 40% less than what other actors were making. And just like that, everything changed. Before Taxi, Danny had been rejected from nearly 200 auditions in 3 years. Casting directors kept telling him he was too short, too strange-looking, too different. But once the show started airing, he became a sensation. Within just 8 episodes, Danny received more than 11,000 fan letters. That was almost unheard of, especially for a supporting character. His character Louis De Palma wasn't nice or likable. He was nasty, rude, and mean. But people loved him anyway. To prepare for each scene, Danny would sit alone and think about all the people who had ever rejected him. All that anger and hurt went straight into his performance, and it worked perfectly. By 1980, 93% of Americans could recognize Louis De Palma just from his voice. The dispatch booth where he worked, which was built to match Danny's size, became one of the most famous sets in TV history. Then came the awards. In 1980, Danny won a Golden Globe. A year later, he won an Emmy. It shocked everyone because Louis De Palma wasn't a typical hero or even a likable character. But people couldn't stop watching him. When Danny finally got his Emmy trophy, he gave the shortest acceptance speech in Emmy history. He just said 12 words. "Thank you. I'm really happy about this. Taxi is the best show on television." During all this success, Danny met the love of his life, Rhea Perlman, in a really weird way. She was actually dating Danny's roommate and came over to break up with him. That's when she met Danny. They talked for 6 hours that night. Danny later said he knew within 22 minutes that he wanted to marry her. A year later, Rhea joined the cast of Taxi to play Louis' girlfriend. The producers didn't even know that Danny and Rhea were dating in real life. Their chemistry was so real that everyone thought it was just great acting. They secretly moved in together after only 2 weeks, cramming into Danny's tiny 450-square-foot apartment. Even after they got married in 1982, they kept separate dressing rooms on set to avoid any favoritism. What most people don't know is that Danny and Rhea were also working together behind the scenes. In 1983, they quietly started their own movie company called Jersey Films. They worked on it at night and on weekends while still filming Taxi. When Taxi ended in 1983, Danny did something most TV actors couldn't pull off. He successfully moved to movies. That same year, he got a role in Terms of Endearment, which won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. In 1984, he was amazing in Romancing the Stone, which made over $115 million on just a $10 million budget. He was making smart choices, building up his movie career step by step. But in 1986, Danny went full villain in a movie called Ruthless People. He played a greedy man who refuses to pay ransom after his wife is kidnapped. The movie cost $7.5 million, but earned over $71 million. Danny got another Golden Globe nomination for being so perfectly awful. In 1987, Danny made his first movie as a director with Throw Mama from the Train. He told the producers he would only act in it if he could also direct it. The movie earned him critical praise and another Golden Globe nomination. Then in 1988 came Twins, one of the most unlikely movie ideas ever. They paired Danny with Arnold Schwarzenegger as long-lost twins. It sounded like a joke, but it worked brilliantly. Danny, Arnold, and the director took a huge risk. Instead of taking money up front, they made a deal to split 40% of the profits. The movie made $216 million worldwide, which would be over $500 million today. Each man earned around $35 to $40 million. That movie changed how people saw Danny. He was no longer just a weird supporting actor, he was a leading man. He proved that you didn't need to be tall or handsome to carry a movie. You just had to be talented. In 1992, Danny completely transformed himself to play the Penguin in Batman Returns. He spent hours every day in makeup to become the twisted villain Oswald Cobblepot. His performance was wild, creepy, and kind of tragic. Fans loved it so much that he was nominated for Best Villain at the MTV Movie Awards. That same year, Danny also directed Hoffa, a serious movie about labor leader Jimmy Hoffa, starring Jack Nicholson. It was a bold shift from comedy, showing that Danny could handle big, tough stories. Also in 1992, Danny took his biggest risk yet. He started Jersey Films with partners Michael Schamberg and Stacy Sher. It wasn't just a vanity project. They built one of the most powerful independent movie studios of the 1990s. In 1994, they took a huge gamble on a wild script that most studios didn't want. That movie was Pulp Fiction. When one studio passed on it, Jersey Films kept it alive. They gave director Quentin Tarantino money in Office Space. The whole budget was just $8 million, but Tarantino promised it would look like a $25 million movie. He kept that promise. Pulp Fiction became a classic and proved that Danny had an amazing eye for bold, game-changing movies. In 1996, Danny directed Matilda, based on Roald Dahl's book. He played Matilda's awful father and cast his wife Rhea as her mother. But what made the movie special wasn't just the story, it was what happened behind the scenes. The young star Mara Wilson was dealing with her mother's cancer during filming. Danny and Rhea cared for her like family. Danny even brought a nearly finished version of the movie to the hospital so her mother could see it before she passed away. Wilson later said that Danny and Rhea felt like her favorite aunt and uncle. Throughout all this success, Danny was hiding his painful secret. His Fairbanks disease caused him constant agony. He had surgery after surgery, but the pain always came back. Hollywood told him to keep it quiet. They said if he looked weak, he would lose work. So Danny kept going, even when it hurt to stand. During his time on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, he would act through the pain, then collapse off camera. He finally spoke out in 2025, tired of staying silent. He wanted doctors to take the disease seriously, not just for him but for others who live in pain with no help. In 2006, at age 62, Danny joined the cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. At first, the network didn't want him. They thought he was too famous. But show creator Rob McElhenney fought hard to bring him in, and it worked. Ratings jumped by 227%. Danny didn't take a huge paycheck either, just $70,000 per episode, even though he had made 10 times that in his prime. By 2010, young viewers knew him more for Frank Reynolds than anything else. Danny wasn't afraid to do anything for laughs. In 2007, during one episode, he covered himself in hand sanitizer and slid naked across the floor. That wasn't even in the script. It just became a legendary moment. In another episode, he popped out of a couch covered in sweat and makeup. He got a rash from it, but kept going. In 2013, he even bathed in trash water for a scene. When someone asked if it was too much, he said, "At my age, vanity is just another word for missed opportunity." But behind the scenes, the pain never stopped. In 2008, doctors found serious damage in his back. By 2010, nearly half his filming days were spent in extreme pain. His mornings started at 4:30 a.m. with 4 hours of therapy. He bounced on a tiny trampoline, took hot and cold baths, and even hung upside down in his trailer. For one water slide scene in 2011, he needed 19 takes and ended up with broken blood vessels in his eye. But the scene made it into the final cut. In 2012, after 30 years of marriage, Danny and Rhea separated. It shocked everyone, but the cracks had started in 2011. They went to therapy, 38 sessions, but couldn't fix their problems. In 2013, they were seen holding hands again. Danny had rented out the same place where they had their first date. They tried again and stayed together for 4 more years before splitting for good in 2017. Even after their second separation, they never divorced. They worked out a deal to split their fortune without going to court. In 2019, Danny bought a house less than a mile from Rhea's. They still talked every Wednesday and Sunday. Every month, they met at the same restaurant at the same table, just like old times. Their son once said they still shared a Netflix account and even texted each other while watching the same shows from different houses. In July 2023, Danny donated $500,000 to a hospital in New Jersey, the same hospital where he was born. The donation wasn't a publicity stunt. It was his way of giving back. The hospital had just been ranked among the top 5% in the nation for patient care. Danny's gift helped fund their most urgent patient needs. For years, Danny has used his fame to speak up about things he believes in. He talks about the environment, healthcare, and politics. Some people say his honesty has cost him work. There are rumors that when he began opening up about his physical condition, he was quietly pushed out of some roles. The rumors say that producers pressured him to get experimental treatments to look more normal. None of this has been confirmed, but it makes you wonder, how much does honesty really cost in show business? Danny's support for children's hospitals treating bone disorders has become a personal mission. Living with Fairbanks disease isn't easy. It causes joint pain, stiffness, and early arthritis. Danny kept this hidden for years, pushing through the pain as he continued acting, directing, and producing. Recently, though, he started talking about it. Not just for himself, but for kids who can't afford treatment or don't have anyone to speak up for them. He wants more research. He wants better care. And he wants Hollywood to stop pretending that only one kind of body belongs on screen. But not everything has gone smoothly. In May 2025, Danny made headlines for a different reason. He appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and what started as a regular interview quickly turned into chaos. At first, it was all jokes and smiles, but by the second segment, things got tense. No one knows exactly what triggered it, but the argument that followed was heated enough that Danny left the set. Security had to step in, not to escort him out, but to keep things from getting worse. The moment went viral. Clips flooded social media, and hashtags like Danny vs. Kimmel and DeVito Unleashed were everywhere. The internet exploded with opinions. Some people cheered him on. They saw it as a rare, raw moment in a world full of fake smiles and scripted lines. Others called it a meltdown and said he was being unprofessional. The debate got even louder when other comedians joined in. Bill Burr defended him, saying that actors are often pushed too far. Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers made jokes about the whole thing on their shows. Suddenly, this wasn't just an awkward interview, it was a pop culture event. Danny didn't stay quiet for long. A few days later, he posted a message online. "No apologies, just honesty. I stand by everything I said," he wrote. "Sometimes the truth isn't easy to hear, especially under the lights." The post only fueled the fire. Reports started coming out that some of his upcoming appearances had been canceled or postponed. No official word, but whispers of a quiet blacklisting began to spread. Jimmy Kimmel, trying to smooth things over, made a statement of his own. "I have nothing but respect for Danny. I hope we can laugh about this one day." But the damage, or the legend, was already done. Even with all the noise, Danny DeVito hasn't faded away. He's still working, still creating. At 80, he's producing a sports documentary series called Game 7 for Prime Video. It's a family project. His kids Jake and Lucy are co-producing. Danny says he's a sports fan in his own weird way. It's a different kind of show for him, but that's part of his appeal. He never stays in one box. And of course, there's It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's been playing Frank Reynolds since season 2, back in 2005. The show was struggling then, and Danny's arrival turned things around. His chaotic energy and perfect timing helped make it a cult hit. Now, almost 20 years later, he's still there, scheming, yelling, crawling out of couches, and audiences still love him. So here's the truth about Danny DeVito at 80. He's a man who was never wanted by his own mother, but became one of the most beloved actors in the world. He's someone who lives with constant physical pain, but still makes millions of people laugh. He's a person who could have changed everything about himself to fit Hollywood standards, but chose to stay exactly who he was. He's not just surviving, he's thriving. But the sadness is still there. The pain is still there. The loneliness of being different in a world that demands conformity is still there. Danny DeVito's life teaches us something important. Success doesn't erase pain. Fame doesn't heal old wounds. Money doesn't cure loneliness. But courage, the courage to be yourself, to speak your truth, to keep going even when everything hurts, that's what makes a real hero. At 80 years old, Danny DeVito is still that little boy from New Jersey who was told he wasn't wanted. But he's also proof that sometimes the people the world doesn't want are exactly the people the world needs most. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories about the people who make us laugh, cry, and believe in the power of never giving up. Danny DeVito's journey isn't over yet, and neither is yours.